I'm Mayor Tommy Roberts. Welcome back to the Mayor's Table. My guest this morning is Shana Reeves, who is Director of Communication and Quality Performance here at the City of Farmington. Shana, it's good to have you as a guest this morning.
Thank you, Mayor.
So you've been on the other side of the video camera for all of these Mayor Table filmings. You're coordinating getting guests scheduled and getting topics scheduled, and so we got you here in front of the camera now, and we're going to talk about a number of things that primarily have to do with volunteerism in the City of Farmington. But first of all, I want to ask you what your job is. That's a pretty fancy name and title, so what is it that you do?
Well, I have the longest title in the city, I believe. I am the Director of Communication and Quality Performance. And really I do four main areas. So I work on the economic development of the downtown corridor. So I work closely with Michael Bullock. He is the co-executive director of that. And we work with the businesses downtown, and we try to increase the economic vitality of that area. I also have a focus with the legislative group. I work actively to help us watch bills that affect us and communicate with our legislators. And then I do the website and the citizen engagement portion. So I'm responsible for trying to reach out to our citizens and get them engaged with what we do, and the Mayor's Table is one form that we do that. And then another area is the volunteer program. Yeah. I am the primary overseer of the Mayor's volunteer program. Well,
with those just four primary areas, I guess, I can tell you're very busy. I know you are very busy. I see you working almost on a daily basis, and those are very important areas, four very important areas that you have oversight for. The downtown redevelopment's a big project with a high priority for me and I think for the city councilors. And we're every year dealing with the legislative battles and communicating with our legislative delegation, and so you've got a busy job, and it's one that's very important for the citizens of Farmington. I want to talk more specifically today about the Mayor's Volunteer Program. So volunteerism is a topic that I talk a lot about as I go out and about in the city and talk to various people and groups of people. And I stress the importance of volunteerism to a strong community. I don't think you can reach your potential as a community unless you have a strong volunteer program and many people who are engaged in donating their time and efforts to make Farmington a better place in which to live, work, and play. So we've always had volunteers, but it hasn't been that long ago that we institutionalized the volunteer program through the Mayor's Volunteer Program. Sure. And would you talk a little bit about how that got started?
Well, you're right. We volunteers have always been a part of us, but in a smaller way initially. We always used them in terms of the museum and in terms of the Bonnie Dallas Senior Center, the Meals on Wheels program. But really, until you became mayor and helped the community realize how important volunteerism is, we didn't really have a streamlined city program. We had people who were utilizing volunteers, but as you say, we've now institutionalized it, and we do have the Mayor's Volunteer Program. And over the past 3 or 4 years, we've really streamlined it. It became, probably around 2010, the Mayor's Volunteer Program. And we continued and built upon what we had. But we have a solid Mayor's Volunteer Program manual. We have a Mayor's Volunteer Recognition Dinner. And we have an application. We work closely with HR. We do background checks. Our volunteers get ID badges. They're placed formally within our departments and our divisions, and they're oriented. We have onboarding processes for them. We have ways of tracking their time and the amount of hours, and we have job descriptions that they fulfill. So we have undoubtedly one of the most active and holistic volunteer programs probably in throughout the United States. We have quite a program.
In the context of organization, you have to have some key people responsible for directing the effort and managing that effort. Tell me and tell the viewers about the people who are responsible for the organization.
I can tell you all that it definitely isn't a one-man show. I oversee it at the highest level, meaning I'm the one that brings all of the key players together. And you need someone like that. But really, our volunteer coordinators are the people who do the work. They're the boots on the ground. They interact daily with the volunteers. There are two key volunteer coordinators who work closely with me, and that is Candy Lemoyne with the Farmington Museums and Jeremy Jackson with the Farmington Public Library. And they really kind of rise to the top in terms of helping other volunteers get in line with the processes and procedures, and we really touch base right now about every 2 weeks to make sure that everyone's on the same page, that our volunteers are all in the same database. So we have about 13 or 14 volunteer coordinators throughout the city. We also have a dedicated person in HR who works with our volunteers and onboarding them. So big thanks to HR for that. And we just all work together to get those volunteers in here.
How do we get the message out that we want to encourage people to step up and volunteer? What's the process for engaging citizens to become volunteers?
Well, there are several. Once you're volunteering with the city, you get emails that tell you our upcoming events. We also send out, when you become a volunteer with us, you check whether you'll allow us to get text message or email, and we'll send out help needed emails. We reach out to churches and youth groups, Boy Scout and Girl Scout troops. We post things on Facebooks, and we have recruitment fairs. So recently, the Farmington Regional Animal Shelter has put a call out on Facebook for volunteers needed, and they're having a specific orientation for those people because they're having some turnover in their volunteerism.
Where do we find that people are most interested in volunteering?
Everyone wants to do the police department. I think sometimes it's because they're fascinated and maybe they're thinking about becoming a police officer and they want to get more acclimated to that type of line of work. Animals, the Farmington Regional Animal Shelter, they have everything from dog grooming to dog walking to transporting. I mean, we have people who have put in over 2,000 hours in a year transporting animals. A lot of people volunteer for the Bonnie Dallas Senior Center. They help with the dances, they help with Meals on Wheels, they teach pottery classes. So really it's our people-oriented stuff. It's our races. They can be found out on the courses when we do a 5K or a 10K run. When we do the Road Apple Rally, they're on the trails. So they're definitely a vital part of us, but really Parks and Recreation and the police department. That's
Where do we have a need for more volunteers? Are we deficient in any particular department or division of city services?
Oddly, it's those non-flashy things. We need people sometimes to come in and just help refile things that aren't confidential, files that kind of take a back seat because the city, we've had some attrition and we've had some positions that weren't filled, and sometimes filing is not the thing the best use of our time. We always need help with Meals on Wheels. Meals on Wheels is one of the most important things that the city offers for homebound seniors, and a lot of times we just don't have enough drivers, so Meals on Wheels is a big one. And then in our museum systems, their docent training could always use volunteers. We always need people to help with exhibits and the nature center and things services that we provide.
We recently had our volunteer recognition dinner, an annual event now, and very nice. It was held at the Civic Center, very well done, a nice dinner, but really an opportunity to recognize those people who have stepped up and volunteered their time and services and efforts. And it's very important to do that. I think most people don't volunteer with the expectation that they receive recognition, but I found that they do appreciate it when they are recognized. And it's only appropriate that we do that. Do we have any data that tells us how many volunteers that we do have citywide and how many hours were volunteered over the last 12 months?
We do. We have right now for 2016, so our number for 2016, we had over 473 active volunteers.
That's great.
Throughout our city. In 2015, we had 600. But what people need to understand is that we have long-term volunteers. We have people who've been doing fingerprinting, for 25 years. And some of those people are passing away or they're becoming our homebound seniors themselves. So our numbers fluctuate. We do have dog walkers that aren't included in those because a lot of people just stop by. So we have over 700 to 900 dog walkers. And sometimes they provide 500 to 700 hours of that. And then we do have an annual total that we gave in our banquet, and I don't have that number in front of me, Mayor, but they saved the city over $100,000 in labor last year.
And I think it's actually more than that. I think it's maybe even significantly more than that. But there's a way that the value of volunteerism is calculated that's considered standard practice, and we've done that, and we know that the efforts of volunteers in assisting the city of Farmington provide services and programs has saved the citizens, the taxpayers, considerable amount of money. So by all accounts, it's a successful program, and I want to thank you for what you do to coordinate that program. Before we close this segment of Mayor's Table, I want to speak a little bit more directly about another way for citizens to volunteer in the city of Farmington, and that's to serve on one of our advisory boards and commissions. These are volunteer groups of people who are volunteering to serve on a specific board or commission that is advisory to the mayor and city council. And these boards provide a very great service to the elected officials and to the administrative staff at the city of Farmington. And I thought I might just briefly go down the line before we close this out and indicate where we do have some vacancies. And so if you're interested in becoming engaged a little bit more than you are currently in volunteer activities in the city of Farmington, well, I'm going to give you some information that may interest you and encourage you to check these things out. Our Administrative Review Board has 1 vacancy. Our Animal Services Advisory Commission or Committee has 2 vacancies. We have 1 vacancy on our Citizens Police Advisory Committee, 1 vacancy on our Library Board. We have 1 on our Metropolitan Redevelopment Commission. That's our downtown redevelopment effort. We have 2 openings on our Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs Commission, very active commission. And we have 1 vacancy on our Planning and Zoning Commission. And finally, we have 3 vacancies on our Public Utility Commission. Now, the representation is by district, so it depends upon where you live and where those vacancies are. But again, that's a real quick list, primarily just to indicate that we do have positions open and available. The process to be considered as a volunteer to be appointed to one of those boards and commissions is to simply fill out an application form indicating your interest and where you would like to be considered. When I receive applications, I schedule appointments with the applicant, and they come in and we interview for the position. So, Shana, again, I want to thank you for what you do with the city of Farmington and all of those people who are participating as administrators and supervisors of our volunteer program. Again, I think we have a strong volunteer program, and as a result, we have a stronger community. So with that, do you have anything else you'd like to add before we close?
I do not. Thank you for taking me off the other side of the camera.
Yeah. Thought you had to come over here and see how it is over on this side.
Probably a good experience for me.
All right, we want to thank you for joining us here again this morning at the Mayor's Table, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next Monday.